What's up, everyone? I'm Liz Hunt.
And I'm Chelsea Poppins.
And you are listening to the Agency Rocket Show, where we talk about the chaos of running a creative agency.
Woo!
Yeah.
And we are on our final episode of our branding series. If you've been listening to the entire series, thank you for coming along this journey with us. It has been fun. Hope you've enjoyed it. And we love to hear any feedback from anybody on topics or stories or anything. So feel free to shoot us an email or slide into our DM, social media, whatever. And today's episode, drum roll, is going to be about what is brand strategy.
Yes. I love this topic because I think it's something that a lot of designers have not been really well educated, myself included. You know, we know a ton about visual identity and we know a ton about like colors and typography and all these things. But then when it comes to a strategy, a brand strategy, I feel like it's really ambiguous and it's really vague and it's like, so what are we talking about? Like, what is this? You know, and I feel like you have to start introducing other people to your table of thought and services. And you want to start bringing in possibly a copywriter or maybe a marketer. And so I think when your table has to get bigger to start having these brand strategy conversations, I think sometimes that can, maybe either scare some designers or just cause them to ignore the possibility of entering into that space. And even myself, this has always been a journey of, okay, I want to figure out how we can do that here at DayCloud. And so just having to educate myself and learn from other people who are doing it really well. And so I'm excited about this topic.
Like Liz said, very excited to dive into this and talk about not only from our team internally, but also from that client's perspective of how they come to us for branding expertise and they step into our discovery workshop, which helps define that. But I think the biggest question is, like, in a lot of people's minds, is what is brand strategy? And Liz, in your mind, how would you describe to a client what is brand strategy?
Well, really what brand strategy is it's helping a client define some of those non-visual elements of what your brand is. So in short, it's your brand purpose, your brand mission, vision, values, your positioning statement. It's target audience. Like, you have to have your target audience. That's a big part of your strategy. And then also, some people like to throw in your competitor analysis in there as well. So it's kind of like this. Is that 7 things? I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes.
Numbers.
So yeah, right. Yeah. So it's like that list of 7 things. It can be 6 if you don't want to include the competitor analysis. But I mean, if you can, do. But it's like that list of 7 things that really helps build the brand and create a strategic plan for how you want the brand to be communicated visually. It helps give you that strategy, right? That plan for, okay, now we know.
Most importantly, long term, not just short term.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's like, now we know who we are in kind of this one sense. So now we can take that, hand it off to a designer to really build out what we've put together here into a visual format. So it really helps inform the visuals and the marketing and the messaging and, all these different things. So I think we can maybe break down each one of those things. Let's start with brand mission and vision. I think a lot of people, like clients, come to us with those things already done. So
sometimes we have to be like, hey, go back to the drawing board, come to us with that mission statement that you kind of put together.
Yes, that's a very good point. So sometimes clients will come to us with them sort of done, or they've done them incorrectly, which I kind of...
Or people just don't know what a mission statement is in this day and age with Google.
Right. Yes. So to clarify, a vision for a company is what your company is aspiring to. A mission is what you are currently doing. Basically, it's like what you are doing kind of in your day-to-day activities as a company. Vision is like, this is what we are reaching toward. This is what we're going after. And then the mission is what we're
How
able
we're doing
to,
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like how we're doing that currently. Sometimes clients, when they give us something that they have already, they've got those a little mixed up. And so, I kind of determine how the relationship is going if I say anything. But yeah. So we start there.
And we do, like, when I think about this type of stuff, I always go back to our discovery workshop because we have a million different questions that are pulling out the vision, the mission, to even like the core values. Like we joke around, and you've probably heard us joke around about like, what are your core values or what defines you? And people are always like, integrity.
Yeah. Trust, professionalism,
honesty, reliability.
Yeah.
And we're like, what is like a unique factor? And we try to pull up the little golden nugget of what really makes them and separates them, differentiates them from their competitors. And that, I mean, that just goes hand in hand with like understanding that market. A lot of things that go amiss is when a business owner, they're so siloed and tunnel visioned into their own vision and mission for who they want to be or what they want to do. Or maybe they're just busy and they don't even have time to think about what their competitors are doing or like strategically, not just being like, oh, like they have icon on their truck. Like that's really cool. Like not just thinking about the visual things, but also the entire ecosystem of like, who are your top competitors and what exactly are they doing online, out in the wild, and in all of the areas.
Yeah. And that speaks to the competitor analysis. That is a big part of, well, it can be if you want, but like that's a part of the brand strategy. And it's a really, really, really helpful tool, I think, in your brand strategy because it gives you so much information for how to differentiate yourself from your competitors. To your point of like, do we want to look like everybody else? Do we want to have a different type of messaging? Or do we want to feel like we are in the same industry? Or, like there's a lot of things I think that you can pull from that competitor analysis where you look at competitors' strengths and you look at their weaknesses and you really just compare and contrast like where you want to be and where you don't want to be and where you want to excel versus what your competitors are doing. That's a really good point. The other thing that clients often come to us with already are their core values. And you mentioned that earlier. This is part of your brand strategy, right? And the core values are meant to be things that are systemic beliefs that the company adheres to, right? And to your point earlier, Chelsea, a lot of times companies will bring in really generic ones, right? But part of our discovery conversations are really trying to like suss out what are the real core beliefs that you have as a business, as an organization. And sometimes we can't get that just in that discovery workshop. Sometimes we have to have conversations with other staff. Sometimes we have to do phone interviews with customers. Sometimes it's having more conversations and gathering more intel. Sometimes it's a little bit lengthier of a process in order to get some of those things. But I think it's totally worth it because I think understanding who they are and what their true beliefs are, I think is a huge value add when it comes to being able to have that brand strategy in place.
And another one in that brand strategy, going after that core values, is that target audience. We talk about our workshop and how we pull out the demographics, the age, the likes, dislikes, fears, what people's goals are. And it's oftentimes we'll have clients that come in and they're like, oh, we're for everybody. Like anybody who wants it.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, but like really, if you actually look at the people who are coming into your shop or the people that are calling you, like what is it? What's the demographic? How much income do they have coming in? Are they educated? Do they seem like they went to school? I mean, there's a very big difference if you're looking at like the service industry, the blue collar industry of like who's going to be doing home remodels or things like that. Like you're not going to get a student right out of college, unless they're like making bank right out of college.
Yeah.
And that income is up there, but
yeah,
it's going to be a lot more of that 30, 35 plus range who have that disposable income to do that type of thing. And when you think about your target audience, those are the type of things that you need to think about. What are they driving? What are their goals? What do they want to do? Like, yeah, you might find people that are outside of that target audience, but like when you really hone in on like who you are and who you're actually serving, that is kind of that sweet spot for you as a business.
Yeah. The easiest way to describe how we define a target audience is the ideal customer profile. It really just boils down to who's your ideal customer. And you're absolutely right. Clients love to say, well, we want
it's like anybody's money.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, well, sure. We like, of course you will. Like, I'll take anybody's money, like, you know, like, but everybody has something that is like perfect for the perfect customer. Like you can't be all things to all people. And so we really have to figure out who is your ideal. Who is that like person that just gets you and you just get them? And so that's what we're
also a personal therapy notice for anybody. Like you can't be everything to everybody. Figure out yourself. Work on yourself, guys.
Yes, this discovery workshop is also for personal use anytime needed. Yes. Okay, so then the last two things we have are the brand purpose and then the brand positioning statement. So the brand purpose is really meant to be this concept of just tell us why you exist. Like that's it. And it's meant to be like boiled down into one singular statement. It doesn't even have to be a full sentence. It's like we exist to blank. And that's it. It's not meant to be long. It's meant to be a short, concise.
Keep it simple, guys.
Solve this core problem for this person. And that's it. It's your brand purpose. Okay. And then the positioning statement, that is something that is much more lengthy. You can build something quite a bit further into that because it's meant to be like your unique market position for your brand. It's something where you build upon a few different things. And this is something that can be internal only, but it also can be external. So you can use it in some of your marketing stuff, but we don't do that a ton. But one of the things that you can do is you start out with like, our position here is to do what? And then you turn it into, it's for this specific customer. And it ends with, it's during a certain season of time or a certain era of blank, you know? And so you kind of like follow a little bit of a script. In our branding workshop, we call it the onlyness statement. And then we have our clients kind of follow a script that we've built out for them. It just helps clients put together something and then we have them read it out loud. And it's really cool actually to see that when we have all of them and their different kind of ways of explaining what they do and stuff. It's really cool actually.
I see brand positioning as all encompassing. It pulls in a little bit of everything that we just talked about, whether it's the core values, the target audience, your mission, how you're perceived. Like we talk about it being an entire ecosystem and that brand positioning, like if you're going into a market that's oversaturated, you really got to figure out what makes you unique and how that makes you stand out and where in that marketplace of all your audience where you stand in comparison to those competitors. And so like I think it pulls in your tone of voice, your target audience, like what you're packaging, what your messaging looks like, what your mission is. I think the easiest thing when I think about brand positioning is thinking about waters. When I think of Aquafina, Fiji, Liquid Death. and like I think of Aquafina as this like gas station and water, and I think of Fiji as that bougie water for people willing to spend a little bit more money on water. And then I think Liquid Death is like that really cool, like unique creation because they're really
metal,
like the hardcore punk rock blend of just old fashioned water. I think they really hit the nail on the head for it because they're just like, I drink water, like leaning into that health conscious, that pure, like natural water brand, but also like leaning into the adventure, the rebellious nature of people who just like want to be a little bit different. And I think they really did find their audience where like a lot of us, I didn't know that audience was out there. But they positioned themselves like so well. And it's just like a creative way of positioning themselves like to that crunchy wellness crowd.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true. Until you mentioned that, I didn't really even think about Fiji positioning itself in the market as the bougie water thing, or...
That's how I see people who drink Fiji. I'm like, oh, you fancy.
That's funny. I drink Fiji water.
That tracks. See, you're the audience. I've been affirmed on air.
I like how it tastes compared to like Dasani. I don't like how the Dasani water tastes or the Aquafina. I like Smart Water too. Aquafina water I think tastes weird. I think it tastes weird. I don't like it. I like Smart Water.
I don't think I can taste it quite yet. I don't think I actively notice it because I think my standards are very low when I'm on a road trip. I'm like, you know what? It's water. That'll do.
Water.
Just like give me some hydration. But I do taste it. I do taste the water difference at my house where we have our like Berkey water filter versus our tap water. And I'm like, wow, this is a dream.
See, I don't do that. Like I am just fine with tap water. I don't have like a water
That's weird.
filter. It is weird. I'm great with tap water.
Mine's a lifestyle change. Yours is just out in the wild. It looks good in my hand.
No, I like the taste of Fiji water.
I do too.
Genuinely. See?
I just have Ryan's voice in my head saying like, you're going to pay for that.
You're like,
really, Chelsea? Like, it's my money.
Yeah, I do what I want.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's great. Okay, so back to brand strategy. When it comes to building out a brand for a client, I think it's important that we talk about like why we do it. Like, why is it even important that we have a brand strategy for a client and like why you can't skip it? Especially like defining a target audience. Because even before we started doing anything else with brand strategy, we've always defined a target audience as part of our brand process.
Yeah. I love the phrase that comes to mind is, if you don't know what direction you're running, any road will get you there. And like clients are coming to us as the experts. They're coming to us for guidance and for us to take them down a road that we see is best for them and their business. And I really do think that's the key reason why you can't skip it, because during our workshop, we're trying to define what direction is the best direction for this business to run in. And we don't want to send them down the wrong avenue. Like we don't want to skip questions or pieces of our discovery workshop, because then like we talked about many, many times of how it sets up our team internally to understand the business better. And we always record it. We have everybody in that meeting, not only from the client side, but from like our team side, our Day Cloud side. So everybody can hear it firsthand and everybody can see the expressions on our clients when they're talking about things or the full experience of that business. And like, I think it's just a really good gauge of that North Star of where we need to take it.
Yes. The North Star point, I think, is such a good point because it really does create this is the goal. Creates that North Star for every other piece of work that we are going to be building. It gives us a starting point, like it gives us that, here's your goal. This is what we are building toward. Here's the foundation. And then you know what to build your visual identity around, and you know what to build your messaging and your tone of voice around, because you understand what the brand actually is. I think all those things give you the plan. Like, I think it's actually like the blueprints for every, like the visuals and the creative and the messaging and all the brand experiences. I think it's the blueprint for all those things. And I think it's like, you can build a house without a blueprint, but it's probably, like it's probably going to crumble at some point, because at some point something's going to be misplaced, or a nail is going to be on the wrong spot because you didn't have a blueprint. And so I think that's probably what I would say about having a brand strategy is. It is your plan for the brand.
And it helps just having like straight facts out there of like when we're working through that workshop, it's like they're telling us something, and we always as a team can reflect back on what was actually like vocalized and what was said in those meetings to back the reason we made choices along the way, whether it was logo, whether it was color, whether it was messaging, whether it was whatever. But we can always reflect back to be like, hey, if the client's like, why did we do that? Or we're like, well, like we did that because you said that. You said this is our target audience, not this audience. Yeah. And so like that is why we created it in this fashion. And like we're always like, we're trying to walk with our client, but also like we do know how to be defensive in a fruitful way and in a proactive way, and to be covering our tail. Yeah, to be covering our tails at all times in a way that just knows like we are the experts. We are leading the charge on this. Like you can trust us because we know what we're doing, and here's why we know what we're doing. And we're not just like doing it because we want to do it and we have a bias towards it. Like we're listening, actively listening the entire way.
Yeah. There was one more thing I wanted to say about. Oh, okay. Brand strategy. The other really great thing about it is when you build it in, you can charge more money. Yay! Woo! This is really great. So like if you are doing the visual identity, that's great, but that's a certain amount of money. But then if you add brand messaging and add this brand strategy piece to it, you could charge a lot more money for the brand strategy, because the brand strategy, it just requires a lot more input and time and like thinking and strategic thinking. And you spend more time with the client and you build out more presentations and things like that. And so you can present a lot more goodies, to the client. And because of that, you can charge a lot more for a client, for a brand project. And so that's also something I think that is, A+ for adding brand strategy to your services. So,
to your repertoire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hooray. What's next? What else?
We've kind of covered how brand strategy shows up in that work, like how we think about it internally and how we use that strategy, that workshop to define every action there forward. We have our 3 stylescapes, mild, medium, spicy, and we strategically create those different personas and personalities for each stylescape with themes, logos, graphics, messaging. That just sets a tone for what we end up at the end of the day, what type of brand packaging that the business ends up with. And then it trickles into everything else, because our workshop's set up not only just that brand and the branding, it sets up the websites, it sets up that social media presence, it sets up the email campaigns, the newsletters you send out, any print materials, whether you're doing signage, you're doing a billboard, you're wrapping your truck, or however that sees fit. But like it really encompasses and really just like you said, sets that blueprint, sets the groundwork for everything moving forward long term and how your audience is going to perceive you at the end of the day. Not just where you're at presently in that growth phase, but 5 years from now.
It's so true. One way that we've really seen this go super well for a client when we've been able to like work it in is we worked with another group that did a lot of this work on behalf of the client. And then they hired us to do all the visual stuff for them. And it worked really, really well. So there was this client, they're a big real estate investor, I think is what you call them. And they were working with this other company that we know really well and love working with them. And this other company, they did all this stuff that was like a lot of the brand strategy stuff. So they did the competitive analysis, they did the brand positioning and the brand purpose, and they did core values, or I think the company had core values and mission vision already, and they worked with them on that. And they even did quite a bit of the even stuff like brand messaging and some of the brand personality stuff, which is a whole nother talk also. And so they had a lot of that, you know, foundation already built so that when they came to us, they had a huge amount of that plan and that work that was already done that they could hand over to us and say, okay, this is the bulk of the work that we've done. Here you go, DayCloud. Based on what we're giving you, now you can build a visual identity. And one thing it did is it expedited that process quite a bit because we had so much of that stuff that gave us a ton of information that we could use, right? And then it also gave us the ability to shoot really, really directly into what you were saying earlier, that North Star. It gave us such a perfect pinpoint piece to that goal that they were after. And so it just helps so much. And I think it, in the long run, the dividends that it pays out continues to pay out because I think it's even more of a long-term play, I think, for them, for the client. So it helps short-term with that brand visual and messaging and all that stuff, but then it continues to pay out those dividends as you continue to carry that strategy forth in your marketing and your messaging and all that stuff. I think it's a really, really good strategy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, reflecting on the time working with them as well. But we worked with them again on another occurrence, and like they made our lives easy. Stepping into working with another company that was a lot bigger, and they had to segment their audience a little bit more of like what areas of their business were drivers, were dealers, were like all these different segments of who they are and who they interact with and the different touch points within their organization. And if you're a large organization, it's going to be extensive. If you're a smaller organization, it might be a little bit reduced strategy or reduced game plan to hand off. But like as you get bigger, like you grow and you have more people on staff and you are interacting with more and more customers. Like it really is important to define yourself from like I say like dissect yourself because you really are really getting into the nitty gritty details of what drives each of like not only your employees, but also your customers or your drivers or your dealers or all these different departments or divisions within yourself. And to your point of setting yourself up for success, I loved it. I loved how detailed it was before they handed it off. We still had our discovery meeting because we asked different questions, but like it really is just like an all-encompassing, knock it out of the park way to handle your business and your brand at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Do a brand strategy. It'll make you more money and it's really good for your clients. And
if you like this podcast, please like, share, follow. We're always available for consultation. If you want us to audit your business, we can do that too. Or any advice. We love branding. We love brand strategy. Hit us up. Slide in our DMs.
Do people say that still?
I don't know. Probably not. I'm pretty old school. I don't think anyone says it. I don't think anyone does.
I genuinely don't know.
Nobody slides in my DMs besides like you and people sending me reels. So,
oh gosh, I love it. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.